Derby County reported transfer target Mahir Emreli has turned down a lucrative offer from Hull City to come over to the EFL Championship. Now, this is a latest instalment of a transfer which could continue going on for the next week. Now, I first spoke about this about a week ago, and it was reported that Emreli wanted to have a decision made over the course of the next fortnight, and we're getting closer and closer to that decision. Now, it is also being reported that Mahir Emreli is preferring a move to stay in Germany, whether that be with FC Nuremberg or with another team in the German divisions. And obviously that wipes out the potential for Derby County to bring the player over to Pride Park Stadium. Now, obviously, it's one of those for me where Derby County obviously want to bring in a quality number 9. They want to bring in some really, really good strikers, really, really good forwards. And don't get me wrong, Mahir Emreli could definitely fit into that. But it's one of those circumstances and one of those situations where if you have not done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, as well as checking out my 2 other channels on screen now, both F1 and Gaming, for you guys to go and feast your eyes upon. If you haven't done so already, go and subscribe to those channels. They'll be linked down in the description. Do you want to win yourself the brand new Derby County 2025-26 home shirt? Well, I'm here to give you an opportunity to do that. There will be a link down in the description where you can head on over to raffle.com to join a raffle where you can win the Derby County home shirt. Ticket prices start at just £1 with a range of different discounts available. You can buy 2 tickets, get 2 free, 5 tickets, get 5 free, 10 tickets, get 10 free, and 15 tickets to get 15 free. The intention with this is to give you guys the opportunity to win a Derby County shirt for less than the valued cost in the shop. So if you haven't done so already, head on down to the description, click on the link in the description, which will take you over to raffle.com, create yourself an account, answer the question, and join this raffle. The winner will be announced on August 1st at 6 p.m. as the transfer window begins to draw to a close. So if you haven't done so already, head on over there and get your tickets. We don't really know how quick his game would translate. We saw it last year with Lars Jørgen Selvesen. Yes, I believe he scored, I think it was just once against Cardiff City, then picked up an injury. Obviously, I know that it was more to do with the fact that he didn't have a pre-season and things like that. But you look at some former players who Derby County have signed from abroad who it's just never really translated. The likes of Raul Albentosa, Abdul Kamara, Kamil Yuzviak. Like, it just didn't really translate over to football in England. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Emreli isn't a good player and doesn't have a lot to offer, but I think it's one of those which really needs to be discussed more longer term. And obviously at 27 years old, it's not like he's going to sort of develop much more than what he already is. He's sort of hitting those prime years already, and he's probably got another 5, 6, maybe 7 years left in professional football. And obviously for him, if he can go and play in the Bundesliga, he could potentially end up playing in Europe. If he gets an offer from somewhere in Portugal or Spain or something like that, he could end up playing in Europe. Whereas with Derby County, that is sort of a far-fetched sort of opportunity. Obviously, you've got the Belgian sides as well, which could potentially be looking at him. And that's something which obviously sort of needs to be addressed with this one. Now, I'm not entirely sure how Nuremberg got on last season, so we will just take a look for their final finish position. But it's one of those for me where, as much as I really like the idea of signing a player like Emreli, who is obviously is an international footballer. He scored a ton of goals last season. I think it was 10 in 24 games from the previous video. And like, it's a difficult one because if you sort of discuss it on paper of how many goals he scored, how Nuremberg got on last year and things like that, I think there's a lot of positives about this potential move. But obviously the problem with that is you've then got to adapt to English football as quickly as possible. You've got to make sure he scores early doors, otherwise it's going to be a struggle. And for me, I think realistically, if he was to stay at Nuremberg, I think that's probably the best move for him. His current manager, I believe, is Miroslav Klose, who we know is an unbelievable striker. And Nuremberg last season, I believe, now we've got it up on the screen for me, he finished in 10th place. Now, obviously, I'm not sure how the promotion relegation system works over in Germany, but there wasn't actually that far off the top of the league in the grand scheme of things. They finished on 48 points, top of the league finished on 61. So it's only, 13 points difference, and that can be made up with the right sort of players, a better defence because they conceded 57 and they could quite easily sort of be in that conversation. But it's sort of one of those for me where if he doesn't want to leave Germany, doesn't want to leave Europe, then there's absolutely no reason to try and overpay to bring him up, in my opinion, because if you then overpay, bring a player over who doesn't really want to leave their current circumstance, you end up in a situation where you've got a player that isn't really up for the task, not in a sense of ability, but in a sense of their personal side of things, probably going to be away from family, and then you've got the whole circumstance of they've got to bed in a new country and all of that sort of jargon that goes with moving clubs. Now, obviously, don't get me wrong, there's certain players and certain teams where that happens overnight, but it doesn't seem to happen that way for Derby County. Obviously, started off brightly with Kenzo Heldmine and then sort of dropped out of the way. Started off brightly with Vidal Zetterstrom. You look at Langas, he sort of started off well, and you look at Jorgen Salverson, I think, what was his third game where he scored a goal, but ultimately then sort of dropped off the boil a little bit and then ended up missing the second half of the season with an injury. So it's one of those for me where you've got to make sure these players are put into the right circumstances and are where they want to be, because if they're not where they want to be, in my opinion, they're never going to perform to their maximum potential. And that is obviously sort of the biggest issue that you're then going to find with football, is that you have to perform to your maximum and you have to get the most out of what you have available to you. And if you've got a player that's homesick, that's unsettled, it's never going to work. You look at, was it Mike Tverik from Holland, who we signed, massive player, and was really good in the Dutch leagues. I think at the time he was rated as one of the best defenders in the Eredivisie. You look at someone like Raul Bentosa, was ranked as the best defender in La Liga at the time, at the end of the season where we signed him, and it just didn't ever transpire because of circumstances that sort of didn't work out. Now, obviously, there's different reasons for that as well. Tverik, Koku got sacked, which then sort of never really gave him that opportunity to really sort of get stuck into it, because I think he picked up an injury early on in his spell as well, and a red card, which kept him out of a few games, which meant that he sort of wasn't sort of getting drilled in it straight away, and it was obviously disappointing for those players, and that's one of the reasons why I'm always very cautious about the players coming from overseas. As much as I believe it is like something that we have to do now as a football club, you have to look at those overseas players, you have to look at those even overseas managers these days as well, because otherwise you're just going to end up in a situation where you're overpaying for a midfielder that you could probably get the same, if not better quality for half from over in Europe. You look at Kenzo Heldmine, I think he's an unbelievable player. We paid the same for him as we did for Ebo Adams. Now, completely different players, but if you're sort of looking at that as Ebo Adams, we're going to end up spending £1 million on by the end of his time at Derby County. Kenzo Heldmine we paid £600,000 for, and he's 22 years old. So you sort of look at those sort of fees. You look at some of the fees being bandied about for when we wanted Daniel Iverson. He wanted something like 20-30 grand a week, whereas we obviously signed Zetterstrom for less than that. Yes, we paid £1.5 million, rising up to 2.2, but younger player, arguably going to be a better player as well. So it's a very, very interesting sort of situation that can transpire when it comes to a player like Mahir Emreli, but it's one of those which really sort of, you have to give the player the best situation, and with it sort of being noted that he intends to continue his career in Germany, it sort of makes sense that Derby County sort of cool off their interest now, which is obviously sort of, it's a little bit disappointing for Derby County, obviously, because a striker is what we need, but it is the right call if we want to bring in the best possible players. Now, you can obviously let me know your thoughts on this one down in the comments. If you have not done so already, make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell. Hit the like button, let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll catch you in the next one. Do you want to win yourself the brand new Derby County 2025-26 home shirt? Well, I'm here to give you an opportunity to do that. There will be a link down in the description where you can head on over to raffle.com to join a raffle where you can win the Derby County home shirt. Ticket prices start at just £1 with a range of different discounts available. You can buy 2 tickets, get 2 free, 5 tickets, get 5 free, 10 tickets, get 10 free, and 15 tickets to get 15 free. The intention with this is to give you guys the opportunity to win a Derby County shirt for less than the valued cost in the shop. So if you haven't done so already, head on down to the description, click on the link in the description, which will take you over to raffle.com, create yourself an account, answer the question, and join this raffle. The winner will be announced on August 1st at 6 p.m. as the transfer window begins to draw to a close. So if you haven't done so already, head on over there and get your tickets.